Hello. The previous video I did was the Data East Cassette video, where I was looking at the Data East Cassette games where I had something really to say about them, but I didn't cover all the Data East Cassette games because there were quite a few more that were dumped in many previous years, and they're not really ones that interest me as much as the ones I covered, but there's still ones that maybe I thought I should cover, so I decided to do this follow-up stream where I look at a few of the ones that didn't get coverage in the first stream. So I'm starting with Oozumou, the Grand Sumo, which was one of the last games released on the cassette system. In fact, apart from Boulder Dash, it is the previous game to the last game released. Does that make sense? We are missing Hello Gateball and Yellow Cab between the two, and this one's from 1984, as were they, with the only 85 release being Boulder Dash. But this is the game previous to the last one released. Hey Thomas, thank you for joining. So I'm going to coin this up now. I hope things are good with you, and we'll have a little look at this one. I mean, there are not that many sumo games. I mean, it's not the only sumo game. I can think the Mega Drive had a sumo game, but it's not the most popular genre, and especially outside of Japan, I guess there is limited appeal. And we have some fairly thin-looking sumos, to be fair. I think because they've got to fit in the size of the sprites. Now, it's a bit of a button masher, joystick waggler game, like you'd expect from a wrestling game, which effectively, it's sumo wrestling. It might be wrestling, but it might be sumo, but it's wrestling in a little circle, not a squared circle like WWF or WWE as it is now, but still with a circle. So you're getting up close. You're trying to put the other person on the ground, and it is sumo. It's maybe not the most exciting of sports to try and make into a game, but it's one of those martial arts games where it's all very technical in the real sport rather than for show, and they don't always translate well. I mean, SNK tried to do it with the Bariki one on the Hyper 64. Sakio tried to do it with the Battle K Road on their own platform. There's like Buddha Cam games on the Mega Drive, but the more technical sports, fighting sports, don't always translate that well into games. But I think Data East did a fairly good job with this one, actually. Probably not one I'd play extensively like many of the games I'll be covering on the stream, but I don't think it's objectively bad. It's just maybe not one that's going to hold my interest for an extended period. So I'm probably going to play this one fairly quickly. So I think the problem with this stream is it's going to be fairly short because a lot of these games, I'll show them off, but beyond that. But thank you, Thomas. I mean, I was very, very nervous doing it because podcasts are more like phone calls, and I'm really not a phone type person. But people have said it came across well, which is something I was worried about. I thought it might come across really badly, but I probably came across better than I felt it did at the time. So yeah, if you want to check it out at some point, I'm not telling everybody they must check it out. I'm just putting it there as something to check out if people have a spare hour. I think it's about an hour long. Then the whole thing is the video game history hour. So I'm not really feeling that much strategy in this. I'm just mashing buttons at the moment and not understanding what's going on. Maybe that's one of the issues with this. Have I won? Have I lost? I don't really know. I mean, it looks good. They've got the presentation nailed down, I'd say. You've got an animated crowd. You've got your sumos. I say they're kind of skinny sumos, but that's what you got on 8-bit games. And this is hardware from 1980, and this is a game from 84. So you can't expect it to be perfect, and I think some of the Japanese prompts are probably telling me what I'm meant to be doing or pressing, and I don't really know. So we just have two grown men lying on top of each other for the most part in this game. apparently I lost. There you go. Well, this was the Grand Sumo. I thought I'd start off with the, you know, the last, well, the penultimate game that is dumped for the system. Hello Gateball is one I'd really like to see. Yellow Cab, there is a version that's not on Data East Cassette. But yeah, let's move on then and actually rewind all the way up to 1980 with Highway Chase, or HWY Chase. Now, I did feature this one on a previous stream, so if you've seen this one before, yeah, this might not be the most interesting thing in the world. This was also known as Mad Alien outside of the cassette system, but this version, which is a US Data East Cassette release, we haven't got a Japan version dumped. Maybe there was a Japanese version called Mad Alien, maybe there was a previous evolution of the game in Japan. I really don't know, but this is the US version, Highway Chase. And as I pointed out when I looked at the various versions, cassette and non-cassette, the cassette version has more effects going on, at least in terms of the emulation. It's got the centre line of the road here. It's still not maybe the best game in the world, but it's probably the one that uses the most of the cassette features. I mean, this whole headlight effect that's going on in the tunnels here seems to be a very specific effect in the hardware that was almost like it was designed for this game, and then the other games came as afterthoughts. But it was one of the more challenging ones to emulate as a result. Although it's maybe not the most compelling game on the system, because it's just a sort of Galaxian style shooter, which has been themed around a highway and cars, really. It visually kind of reminds me of the old Ghostbusters game on the Spectrum for the driving sections, although obviously scaled down a bit. But you know, I can imagine this to be a Ghostbusters car. But yeah, we're just driving along. Obviously these things are kind of inspired by Sega's Monaco GP, mixed with Galaxian. The formations are very Galaxian, like the sound effects are very Galaxian-like. But the road theme is very Monaco GP-like, especially with the widening and narrowing of the road. So I'll play this one for a little bit. This is one of the ones I would say was a shooter, because that is what it is. It's not a driving game. Even though it's called Highway Chase, there is nothing driving related on this. The enemies are a bit jumpy, especially when you shoot them. It's not a perfect game. It's trying to mix two games together, really. When you shoot them, they do jump across the road, though. But I think it's a fairly decent game. And when the headlight is on, you can only see a few elements of the enemies, so you don't really know where everything is, because it's in a dark tunnel. But, I don't mind it. It's probably not one I play extensively, and it's another one of those with a dark blue background rather than a black background for a lot of it. But I think that's just distinguished between in the tunnel and not in the tunnel, because now you can tell you're in the tunnel because it's actually dark. It's pitch black. Hey Mitchell, thank you for joining. I hope you're doing good. But yeah, when things explode, also you get the light. The colours are a bit questionable, but again, I think the colours are correct here. In Mad Alien, you did, I think, have some scenes with green cacti, but it's different hardware, and as you'll see on some of the other games, Data East did like to mess around with the colours. We already talked about that with Rootin' Tootin' La Papa in the previous stream. I do notice the centre line of the road moves more quickly than the edges of the road, which is a very odd parallax effect. It gives the impression the edges of the road are much higher than the centre. Yeah, it's very high pitched. I mean, that's not an emulation issue, that is just the sound in the game. I mean, the sound clock's all verified. The sound design on these wasn't perfect. So again, we saw that with La Papa, which was very obnoxious to the ears, as fun as it was as a game. And I have crashed. Do I have any more lives left? I have one more life left. So some take multiple hits too, so you can see not every shot automatically puts them. Here we have green character, you see. They just flip the colours around like that. And this scene, it looks fine. But this is what they did. I mean, they're the hardware registers to swap pallet banks, and I think they just used them at times when maybe they didn't need to. But there we go. This was Highway Chase. I mean, we have mystery spelled with an I. It's fantastic, it's exciting, and it's thrilling. According to the title screen text. It's alright. It's not a bad game. I think as the first cassette system game, it's got appeal to it, and therefore it's also important, you know, being the first game on the system. It's the one that sort of brought the system to market, established it in the arcades for operators to potentially put other games in. I'd say I'd be curious to see if the Japanese version was any different, but there's no done with the Japanese version. Also, don't be a loser. I mean, the games that insult the player or potential player in certain ways are a special kind of game, aren't there? There are a few of them. This one is telling you not to be a loser. Anyway, I'm going to move forward to another game I covered in a previous stream, which is the third game on the platform, and again we only have a US version dumped. Mitchell, it's very much like Galaxian. And hey Casper, thank you for joining. I don't think this is going to be as exciting as the previous Data East stream, at least not to me, because a lot of these are sports titles. But I'm going to go through the games I missed, so I hope you find something to enjoy here, and I hope you're doing well, and thank you for joining again. It's always good to have your company and your knowledge, your insight into things. Anyway, I looked at Manhattan on a previous stream, so again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, but I am going through the list of things that weren't on the last stream, and this one was one that I skipped over on the last stream because I'd done it before. No attract mode, like I said, so you don't really know what the game's going to be until you coin it up, and I have a feeling it's one of those where maybe the Japanese version, if it turned up, would be more complete, maybe with attract mode. I pressed the button at the wrong time, but maybe I can make it onto the platform here and complete the level. There we go. So yes, you launch yourself off the trampoline by pressing the button at the appropriate time, so when it's right down, or if you forget and do that, then you can't get to any platforms and you are a little angel diving into the score, which is apparently deadly. If you get it at the right time, you go much, much, much higher. And then it's a case of aiming yourself at the various platforms. Let's get a C. Let's pretend this is countdown and getting a few letters. There's a C. You steer yourself downwards. Can I get the 50? I get the 50. See myself this way. Hey Messenger. Thank you for joining again. I'm guessing you saw this one in the previous stream when I covered it. But well, not the previous, the one before. A previous stream, not the previous stream. But I wanted to make sure these two streams covered all the dumped Data East Cassette games. So I'm having another look at it. This time I remember how to play it from the start. So yeah, once you've got some height, you go down your platforms, you try and get your bonus score. You take your risk. Can I get that one? Yeah, I get that one. So I'm racking up my points. Going down the floors. So that one's 60. And I don't know why. I don't understand the general idea behind this game, where you jump off a trampoline and, well, unfortunately that didn't work out very well for me, did it? I got the C from DECO. Now I think I've got a good bounce here. I might be able to get to the top here actually. If you get a really good bounce, you can pass the whole level in one. I think I might. Have I? Maybe no, just not. Just look how close I was to actually getting the maximum bounce where I could jump up onto the building. But I got the D from DECO. Get any more letters? Falling too far? I missed the E. Look how fast I'm falling now though. This is ridiculous. Yeah, don't let yourself fall too fast, otherwise you will just, well, miss and land on houseplants. Let's give this another credit. Again, I don't want to spend too long on this one because I did look at it before. But if you didn't catch those streams, you wouldn't have seen it, so. Waggling the joystick here has no meaningful effect. I just felt like doing it. I've already got... Oh, I've lost the C, haven't I? Because I died. Error, game over. So let's get the C again while I'm at it. There are bonus points to be had by collecting the letters. This whole collect the letters thing... Again, I don't know what the first game to do it was. This is back in 81. Ooh, and I'm playing this really badly by not paying attention. I know Data East used to collect the letters thing on some of their more popular games. Like Tumble Pop, for example. You collect the letters on the stages to spell the word Tumble Pop. Here you are spelling the word DECO. Obviously, Taito would make the idea quite famous with something like Bubble Bobble, where you're collecting the word extend. I don't know what the first game to do it was. Obviously this is quite an early one. So was this the first? I'm going to say probably not. But it could have been. I can't say it wasn't. I'm going to get the E. I'm going to get the... I can get the E counter. But can I get back over this thing? No. No, I can't. Oh dear. Well, this is going well, isn't it? Didn't press second time. Not going to get much height this time. I think Japan quite liked this idea of, you know, trampolines and games. One of the earlier games I remember emulating was Sega Exoplanning's Jump Kids. Not Jump Kids, that's a kind of game. Angel Kids, which was a dual joystick game with a bounce to the top of the sky game. Once you've gone up, the goal is to get to the bottom. You can collect points by getting to the bottom. If you do a high enough jump, you can jump over the building, and I think that advances the stage to a more difficult stage. It's maybe not the most obvious of game mechanics. I think probably in the Japanese version, the colour palette changes a bit more between stages too. But yeah, the basic idea is you get as much height as you can, then you collect the points on your way down. If you want to go to a higher level, you actually jump over the building with the maximum jump height. Then it's more difficult. It's probably the only game I know that plays like this. So again, it's worth playing just for the unique gameplay. But I'm going to close that one now and move on to the 7th game. We're skipping Missile Sprinter and Nebula, games 5 and 6, because those are not dumped. And we're moving on to Astro Fantasia, if I can type it correct. So again, speed up through the loading at 3000% speed. I am glad this one runs quickly because the loading would be quite boring otherwise. Yeah, it's an interesting game. It's not the best game in the world, but Data East did like to try new things, and that is an example of it. DECO, as they were at the time, Data East Corporation. Now, again, this is the one that's got slightly awkward background colours in places, like why does it change yellow there? But again, it does that on the hardware. So this is more your almost standard space shoot. You've got up and down movement. But they're jumping out from the back, coming towards you. It is handy, isn't it, when they assign numbers to things, because in part you know what you're missing, although sometimes the missing games will never release. Okay, I'm doing really bad at this go. With the Neo Geo, the numbers are assigned, but then some games never got released, so there are gaps in the numbering. But you also got it. You get it on most modern systems, don't you? I mean, you look at something like the PlayStation. Everything's got an official Sony number, so you can get an idea of the order things were released. Not necessarily developed, because some things got stuck in development hell and were released much later, or assigned numbers earlier and then released much later. But you get an idea. Hey there, Race Studios. I'm good, thank you, and I hope you are too. I just thought it would be a good idea to cover the Data East Cassette games I didn't cover in the previous broadcast. It's probably going to be a much shorter broadcast because most of these aren't games I've got a lot to say about. They're just ones I wanted to show off a little bit. And once we get to the sports games especially, it's going to be like, well, this is a sports game. It's very limited implementation of the sport. Yes, it is very Death Star Trench. There were quite a few games influenced by that beyond the obvious actual Star Wars licenses. It's just one of those iconic scenes, isn't it? In this case, they've not really got the power to do a full trench run game, but they've used the idea as part of the background. And even outside of arcades, you just see it so often. It's an iconic image. Same with the whole, the TIE Fighters. Look, X-Wing TIE Fighters. The representation gets used everywhere. Back in UK computers in the 80s, it was Doctor Who. You've got so many games with unlicensed Dalek images and time travel things. Look at something like Rolling in Time. It's just got a TARDIS that is part of the game, but it's not a Doctor Who game. Just saw it so often. I suppose the same happens today to a lesser extent because there's still popular things in culture, but everybody is more litigious these days. So if you were to do something like this, you'd probably have them going, "Oh yeah, you have to pay us for that idea, that image." So we've got a second scene to this. It's one of the things with a lot of these Data East Cassette games. They have multiple scenes. It's not unheard of outside of it, but there we go. Let's get up the screen a little bit and shoot things. It's got a slight 3D look to it, hasn't it, with everything coming towards you. What is it? Space Encounters that does similar. My fuel is running out there, unfortunately. I don't really know what I'm meant to do other than shoot things at this point. Unfortunately, the game doesn't always explain itself that way. Oh, this is coming down to get me. I've clearly done something, but I don't know what I'm doing. I think I destroyed it. That's all good. If there are no side effects to using low latency Mass Ninja, it's always a good idea to turn it on. If it causes audio glitches or other problems, then obviously keep it off, but I think in most cases it's a good idea to leave it on. Obviously your graphic card's got to support G-Sync properly as well and everything else. Yeah, you see the background colours change, but it's basically the same thing over again, isn't it? There's not even that much variety of enemies in this game, so I don't know. To me, this is one of the less interesting shooters for the Data East Cassette system. It's not bad, but it's not anything special. What else would you time travel through in? A hot tub? I mean, maybe not back in the 80s, but obviously more recently, definitely a hot tub. I don't know, maybe you could just walk out your front door and find this different time zone. I mean, you never really know, do you? So, I'm sure there were more things back in the 80s to travel through time in. Right, so game over. Again, it's a very simple game. It tells you your boss score, it tells you the scores of the different elements. And yeah, you can loop the track mode. It stays yellow after the first loop. That's one thing that a few of the games do. After the initial demo scene will have different colours, then it will change them, and then not change back until your game over. I've noticed that with a few games. Okay, skipping game 8, which is not dumped, the tower. We move on to another shooter, Super Astro Fighter. Again, yeah, this is another US dump. There's no Japanese dump of this. So let's speed things up and have a look. So Astro Fighter itself is a classic Data East arcade game, really, the original, the regular Astro Fighter. For some reason, the cassette system got Super Astro Fighter, which I think is Astro Fighter with a background. The title screen is being shot away by the player ship. The game encourages you to get a high score, 1 above 0. But there we go. So Super Astro Fighter has waves of different enemy attacks, just like Astro Fighter. So we're starting with one on the right, which is these ones. There are many types of clones of the same on the home systems, especially home computers. You're clearing wave after wave. You've got a fuel gauge. It's basically a timer, so if you take too long clearing the waves, you will lose the life anyway. Every wave has a different attack pattern. You can't move up or down on this one. It's one of those simple, classic shooter concepts, really. It's a bit different to Galaxian or Galaga. It's one you tend to identify with the game Astro Fighter, really. We should not be confused with Sega's Astro Blaster, which was a different game. Bit of a weedy explosion sound there, really. But yes, this is one of Data East's classic games. Well, the original is. The Super version of the cassette system. I don't know if it really deserves the Super title. It's not really doing much to innovate the gameplay. But again, it's a serviceable shooter. It's got some nicely animated enemies here. It's got a good star field. It's got the variety of the the enemy patterns. It's just not special in any way. I'd quite happy to play it if I saw this in an arcade cabinet. I'd put the coin in and give it a go. Now we see we've got the background, and again we've got the very trench-like thing. So again we're looking at a Star Wars as an influence here for the boss fight, and a bit of a shorter boss fight there. You get the shots in and it's been defeated. And we extend our laser to get some fuel from the boss. And then I think we loop. But more difficult. So you see the attack patterns have changed a bit. You don't want to be shot as easily anymore, and they're going to get me. And that's game over. I'll give this one another credit because I've not played this one before. And this same high score table is used on quite a few of the games. Entirely the same code. They probably just reuse the same code segment to do the high score table on multiple games. So let's put in another coin and let's play another credit. And you've got your one enemy by the player one start there, which does indicate the loop you're on. Let's say it's not a bad game. It's just very much early 80s shooter, and I think we're still on. Yeah, we're still on 81 with this. So for the time period it was released, this is an acceptable arcade shooter. And it's a bit more interesting to play than playing Galaxian, although not as famous as Galaxian, because Galaxian did it first a few years earlier. And then others tried to do their own take on the shooter formula. It's not the most difficult game, but you can put yourself in positions where you know you're going to die. If you don't shoot something, you have to move out the way, but you can't move out the way. You don't have a shield, so that is you done for. I'm doing worse on this credit than in the first one. Yep. Sounds like Xevious Bombs. It's a fairly generic sound, isn't it? Y A U. I don't know. I can have another letter. I can't have another letter. I have to go to end. That's a bit strange. Jingle. Right. That's that. Not much more to say about that. Right. Briefly, at the end of the last stream, I looked at what's it called? Ocean to Ocean. Rub. Yeah, you've got Rub and you've got End, the classic thing. Ocean to Ocean. This is the Japanese version. Put money in. It says bet now. You place your bet. You roll your things. And yeah, it's. You place your bet. You roll your thing. I'm assuming this had some sort of payout hardware connected. It's a gambling game, isn't it? Yeah. But there is a US set of it. Believe it or not, there are 2 dumps of this thing. The US set, which is, I think, version 6 or something. Now this says, play now, not bet now. And it has points. Because it's for amusement only. And you actually have control over when the wheels stop with your left and right buttons. So you can, apparently it's skill based. I mean, I don't know how you're meant to judge what symbol that's on to win anything. But there you go. This version obviously has no payout because it says for amusement only at the bottom. And so this was apparently amusing. Apparently amusing. I am amused. Can you tell? Very amusing. Raphael, yes. Anyway, I just needed to cover that briefly. Right, so from Ocean to Ocean, we're going to go with golf. Golf. I like a good golf game when it's Neo Turf Masters or Everybody's Golf. But we have Tournament Pro Golf. This is the US version again. Yeah, I guess Apple don't like gambling games in some senses. Maybe, I don't know. But then again, aren't a lot of games gambling like? This is Pro Golf. Swing your club and add a period to the word pro because it's an abbreviated word professional. Now the map is horizontal and the game is vertical. And I'm just going to insert a coin and see how it plays. There we go. This was also released outside of the cassette system as a ROM-based game, as were many of the sports games, strangely enough. It wants me to shoot now. I can choose my club with that. I think I'm running out of time to shoot because it's gone red, so I will shoot. I hit a tree. Hey Mr. Drone, thank you for joining. I can change the curve on the shot just under the power bar there with the left and right buttons. And yeah, this is a simple golf game. Apparently that's a bunker. I thought those were clouds, but those are bunkers. Doesn't tell you much about how far anything's going to go. You've got to use a sand wedge so I don't get much distance. Oh yeah, you can still multi-load carts in MAME Ray. It works. I demonstrated it on a stream recently. Actually, if you look at the Metal Slug stream I did, I started that off by having multiple carts. You can control the curve on it, but I don't think you have any control over the overall direction. No, Raphael. Yeah, it definitely works from command line. Apparently I've got to continue anyway. I probably used too many shots on that hole. So like most games, this golf game is just... No, I don't think there's any way to control the direction beyond the curve parameter you've got. That's out of bounds with 1 penalty. Needless to say, this is not the most entertaining golf game ever. I mean, I don't even know what conditions are on shot. Club types I can use. The timer on taking a shot is obnoxious. Now, yeah, this is just not fun. Apparently, this is some sort of rotation effect. I have no idea how hard to hit it. Again, no real control over the direction. It looks straight now, and there we go, double bogey. So I guess I've got to put in another coin. Yeah, I have to put in another coin. And this is why golf games have a bad reputation. Because so many of them, you say, I have no idea where this ball's going to land. There's no indication of where this ball's going to land. Pants on the green. And it's I guess this is straight. Again, no idea how much power I need. Not enough power. Learn by trial and error. Power play 0. At least I have to put in another credit. But yeah, unfortunately the cassette system does have quite a lot of bad sports games. We did look at the soccer one in a previous stream, and that was bad. And this is bad. Unfortunately, a lot of early sports games are in that category of just not good. Can I get a hole? Can I get in the hole? No. I'll take another shot. I've got a birdie! -1. It's not satisfying. It just feels like you're pressing the button when the power bar is on maximum, and beyond that you don't have much control. Oh, look, I'm in the water. 1 penalty, 1. And I'm in a bunker. So I could have used the sand wedge because I can't. Like, I can use other clubs, but they don't do anything more than the sand wedge. Yeah, I don't want to play that now. Is there any difference in the Japanese version? Probably not. Just called Pro Golf on the title. Looks like the same thing to me. Change the club type. The colours are slightly different. My club type is listed in red, which is more difficult to read. The power bar's not got the dividers on it, but yeah, it's basically the same game, isn't it? It's slightly different, being a Japanese release. I think this is probably an earlier version. It looks worse to me. It plays the same, and that is to say, it doesn't play well. Again, was I meant to angle that shot? Hole out? I must have used up my shots on that. It's not asking me to continue though. So the Japanese version, I'm assuming, is not as credit hungry as the US version, if that matters to you. Hey Leoga, thank you, I always appreciate the positive comments. I was very nervous doing that podcast. It's not quite the same as the video streams where I can look at the chat and respond to the things and think about them a little bit. So it made me very nervous, but the reception from it has been positive, so that is reassuring. But yeah, the Japanese Pro Golf game seems to be a little fairer than the US one. It's still a terrible game, not one worth playing. At least in my opinion. You might love it. If you do, you know, I'm fine with that. I just wouldn't play it myself. Nor would I play this one. This is a Mahjong game, so I apologise if you don't like Mahjong or can't play Mahjong. I can't play Mahjong either. Interestingly, this does have a full Mahjong keyboard. So this did not go into a generic cabinet. So in a track mode? No! If you're not playing the game, it will sit here doing this forever. So let's put in a coin. Does this music fit Mahjong? Cart 1. No, if you type MAME, Neo Geo, Cart 1, M-Slug, Cart 2, M-Slug 2 with the, it should work. Hold on. That should work. This is a Mahjong game. I can press N to pull the tile up, I know that. I can press another letter to do something else, or maybe, I don't know. Oddly, the pieces at the bottom there are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which isn't helpful because it doesn't tell you what letter you've got to press. You have to remember or count them. It should really say A, B, C, but I think that's just how it is. I mean, there's no reason it would be rendering the wrong letters. It's Mahjong. If you want to play Mahjong with music that doesn't fit Mahjong at all, there you go. I'm not playing that. I can't play that. Maybe it's a good Mahjong game. I don't know. The next one's no more interesting. We're back to For Amusement Only. Hey Lee, thank you for joining. I hope you're doing well. Right, this is Lucky Poker. Yes, RO9, we've got more cassettes. I'm just going through the rest of them, the ones I didn't cover last time. Most of them aren't great, but if you're doing some of the Data East Cassette games, it kind of makes sense to do the rest of them just to show the ones that maybe weren't so good. But yeah, Lucky Poker again. No proper track mode, it just cycles the title screen like the Mahjong game did. This is the direct release after the Mahjong game. I don't know if this was released in the US and the Mahjong was released in Japan. And so they just wanted two similar games released, focused around, popular games in each region, or if there'll be a Japanese version that isn't not dumped. So, bet, start. Oh look, these are the cards I have. What do I want to do? Do I want to keep this card or do I want to hold? Draw another one. Let's draw another one for that one. Let's keep that one and keep that one and draw another for that and draw another for that. Oh look, I didn't win anything. Game over. Yes, David doesn't play the game, so we certainly don't have to. I mean, I'm glad they're dumped and they're properly preserved and everything, but yeah, I'm pressing the wrong button. I wanted to hold those ones and draw the other ones. Never mind. Crash with an access error while trying to load them. It shouldn't. The only reason I can think of that is we're out of memory, but trying to load 2 shouldn't be a memory issue. I'm not sure. That definitely worked when I did it on stream the other day, and I've not encountered any access violations doing it myself. Hold that, and get rid of the rest of them. Maybe I'll win something. 8, 3, 2, 3. Apparently a pair counts for nothing. Yeah, this is... I don't know. I win. Let's not play Lucky Poker. It's... I don't understand why it exists, really. Especially not for gambling purposes. Yeah, for amusement only purposes, it's not that amusing. Right, another one I've covered on an older stream. so won't be spending too much time on either, is Mission X. I think this might end up being like an hour and a half stream because, you know, there's just not that much to cover. Mission X. Are you using a proper version of MAME, Ray? Like I said, I've never had that issue myself. Mission X is a fast-paced bomber game. It may have something to do with the changes made. Yes, I don't know. I've never encountered that issue before. I have encountered issues with people who have used non-standard compile options, so that is possible. Oh dear. I did far better at this the first time I played it. So yeah, you don't have a shoot forward, you have a bomb button and you have height control in this game. It's very fast, smooth scrolling, so you know that to its credit. But I think what I said last time is it takes a while for the difficulty to ramp up, although last time I didn't die within 5 seconds of starting the game. But this wasn't covered on the previous Data East stream, this was just covered on a more generic stream. Now, as it snowed here last week, or earlier this week, I'm thinking I might do a stream based around water, snow and ice. So games with a lot of water, or snow, or ice. Like, you know, snowboarding, or Pengo, or liquid kits. I think Data East licensed King Boxer. I think it was made by Woodplace from memory. A bit like Fire Trap and the Deep. I think they were Woodplace games that Data East licensed. Data East had worked with a number of other companies. Mitchell. There were a lot of Data East games by Mitchell too. Or Alpine Race. Although Alpine Race has got really messy controls that would probably be an absolute pain to stream. One of the problems with emulating arcade games is some of them use really custom controllers that you can't represent without the controller. This isn't bad, although if you look away from the screen you will die. It's a fast playable shooter. Again, it doesn't really do much. Mission X success, vital stress, low flying bomb, run for what? That wasn't English. But yeah, you fly along, you have to lower your height to touch the runways in some cases. If you're flying low, you fly faster. I think you get hit by more things. But so you have to drop your bombs earlier, other than this. So if you're flying high, you have to drop your bombs. I know what I mean. Flying lower, you can drop your bombs later, although not too late. I'm not playing this well. Clearly I don't wish to sink the ships. There isn't one. Here, you see, you touch down to the runway and then you take off again. It plays differently to 1942, Mr. Drone. It tries to be a bit more than 1942. 1942 is a straight up shoot. This has got the whole height control thing. It doesn't have a bomb option though. This is single button only. Probably not a better game than 1942. But it is trying to be a bit different. Don't hit the shots. I do appreciate the fast scrolling though. I don't think there were many games back in '82 with really fast scrolling. Well, now they start firing you. Now it gets tricky. Now instead of bombing, you're firing, you see. So it's gone from ground shooter to aerial shooter. Still the same button. So you've lost your bombs and now you're just shooting planes. You've got to be the same height as them though. Evening Santari, thank you for joining. And now we're back to bombing again. I don't know if that's because I died or if it would have just gone back to bombing anyway. Yeah, I did look at this on the previous stream, so I won't be spending too long on it, but it was one I didn't cover in the first part of the Data East game, so Data East did try a lot of ideas. I mean, I think they're like Atari in that sense, where Atari just went through so many ideas. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't. And I mentioned this in the first part of the Data East Cassette stream. One of the things with the cassette system is, I think because it was cheap to put the games on, you got a lot of those ideas being expressed in games that, if they didn't work, they didn't work. It didn't cost the operator much, it didn't cost Data East much. So they were more willing to experiment. As we saw on the home systems in the UK, there's so many experimental games on the Spectrum and the Amstrad C64 because they were just so cheap to put out an idea and see if it worked. And if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't. That was a very quick death. Something I had to see. The bullets are practically impossible to see here. But yeah, it's. I think this was meant to be night time or something. Then we've transitioned back to day. I missed the runway. And there we go, game over. Yeah, Data East choice of colours wasn't always great. I mean, what year was 1942? 1942 was 84. This was 82, so yeah. This was pre-1942, apparently. Right, back to a sports game. Pro tennis. I don't know why that would be then, Ray. Have you tried in a fresh folder? Some of the cassette games are a bit rough. I mean, I do have a soft spot for quite a few of them. I mean, Zero Eyes, Skater that I looked at the other week, Peter Pepper, Ice Cream Factory. They're really good. Some of them, yeah, they're just sort of concepts that didn't pan out too well. Alright, Pro Tennis. Again, very rough-looking title screen. Very Nintendo Tennis-like graphics. Again, I don't know if this was before or after Nintendo's Tennis. But, very plain. I mean, it's a step above Pong, isn't it? I was thinking if I do a sports special, Pong really has to be on there because Pong was just like early computer tennis. Sometimes called computer tennis. But this does have the idea of a bouncing ball. It's still a very odd looking ball. It's almost the same as the ball in the golf game. But this is tennis. Indeed. Yeah. If you have to think about the games, you have to put more effort in. Although at the same time, I think that stops there being as many creative games. I mean, some of the most creative and fun games from back in the 80s on the computers, games that if more thought had gone into them, they probably would have never been released. They rough concepts that turned into really good games that people enjoyed or maybe wouldn't have enjoyed. I think we saw the same with Sega System 24, which was the floppy-based one. Games like Crackdown and Game Ground, they don't really fit the traditional arcade mould. But if you ask me, what is one of Sega's best games, I would go with Game Ground. I don't think that would have been released had it not been for System 24. I think it would have been considered too risky. So you just have to sort of sift through them and see what works. And I guess these sports games were the cheapest ones to make and just put out and know that some operators would buy them, which is probably why they're quite rough. I mean, it's not terrible. It's early tennis. It's not a genre I really enjoy even the best games in. I mean, I can play the Capcom Sports Club tennis game and quite enjoy that, but that's rather easy to play. This is all about timing and positioning, and that ball graphic is really difficult to see. At least you've got your multi-directional movement. You can move up and down and diagonally. You don't really have much control from what I can tell over where the shots go, and it's very difficult to judge the height on the thing. This has got Japanese version too, but as far as I can tell, the Japanese version is identical. I didn't see any notable differences. I'll load it up briefly. So, looks the same, same music. I think the Japanese version is just the same. Apart from in this case, I actually scored a point. But yeah, I don't think there's any notable differences with the Japanese version of this. Oh, joy, 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 joy. Sorry. For game 23, we're back to golf. But this time, we are on 18 Challenge Pro Golf, which is a Japanese release. We don't have a US dump of this one. So what is it? And how does it compare to the previous golf game? Well, it looks basically the same. I put a coin in. So this actually just seems to be the same as the US golf game we looked at earlier. It actually makes me wonder if the US one we looked at earlier is in fact a clone of this and not the same game as the Japanese golf game we looked at earlier, because this seems to be based on that version. So it's possible they're actually incorrectly classified in MAME. I'm not sure. Double bogey. This isn't making me insert coins immediately, at least. Birdie King, at least, though, is a trackball game, so you feel you're in control. You can aim the ball. You're pushing it towards the hole. In this, you really don't feel like you have any control over the direction of the shot. You can swerve it, and then you've got this whole time on things. Birdie King is far more fun. I'm not surprised that Taito got 3 games out of Birdie King. This is just not fun. I mean, I don't think there's any point in me playing much more of this. It is the same game as the US one we looked at earlier. It's possible to say the US one should be a clone of this rather than listed under the older game. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's no point in me looking anymore at that. We've kind of seen it before. I looked at Angler Dangler in the previous stream, but I didn't look at Fishing. Fishing, though, she does wiggle a little bit when she's walking, doesn't she, Lee? Yeah, that's true for a lot of analog games real fast. Trying to play the Golden Tee games in MAME is a pain. Trying to play a lot of trackball games is, without a proper trackball, it's really tricky. And even with a proper trackball, it doesn't really have the same sensitivity. Angler Dangler was the US version. Fishing is the Japanese version. But again, very basic title. Again, I think this plays exactly the same as Angler Dangler. You throw out your line, you pull it back. The music kind of sounds like it's going to turn into Fantasy World Dizzy at any moment. But never does. And yeah, it's early fishing. So again, if you watch the previous stream, you kind of saw this. It's just got a different title screen, best I can tell. I think the game is the same. Reeling in the fish. It's a very early fishing game. I don't think there were many, if any, other fishing games out in 82. Not ones that come to mind anyway, so probably quite an important innovative game in the fishing genre. But it is real, I mean. It doesn't really play like any non-fishing game. You know, you've got to time your pulls as not to go into the red zone on the bar at the right, and avoid the islands while reeling in your fish. So it's actually, I mean, it's a pretty good game. You never quite feel as in control as maybe you should do. But yeah, I can happily play fishing. It won't be my go-to game. Angler Dangler just has a better title, really, doesn't it? So now back to sports. Pro bowling. Let's load this one up. And again, this is an early bowling game. There are worse. There are earlier bowling games that are really bad, black and white ones. So we're in '83. We've got a bowling game that's got a nice presentation to it, but gameplay, it kind of reminds me of the golf game, unfortunately. Position yourself, at least you can position yourself. You can aim slightly, like that way. You've got a strict time until it throws the ball. You see the power bar going between blue and red. Once it's in red, if you don't throw it, it will throw it for you. So, you don't get much time to decide. Nice animations of the pins. But, I think not enough power, it's going to go way off, yeah. But it's one of those genres where games like this have been surpassed in every way. Oh, I got the strike. Oh, was it spare? Spare because I didn't get it the first time. And if you compare this to something like League Bowling on the Neo Geo, League Bowling is just fast-paced and fun, whereas this forces the pace, and you never feel like you have much time to do anything. There are definitely far worse bowling games. It's not one I'd go out of my way to play again. I'll play it for a little bit. We've got a strike. There we go. There's no fancy animations for the strikes and stuff, which is kind of one of the things that makes some of the later bowling games appealing. You've got all the, you know, the what would be on-screen displays at the bowling alley for your strikes and your spares and turkeys. Whereas this is just very plain bowling. I don't know. I also don't understand why the power bar is so long when it never actually goes to full power. Again, I think these sports games were probably the cheapest ones that got put out. They probably funded the other games, just like, you know, slot machines and the like tended to fund games. It is quite a big ball, isn't it, Mr. Drome? It's like beach ball bowling. See, I'm getting a warning sign I didn't throw the ball. And then eventually, if you ignore the warning, it will throw it with the lowest power. Again, it's going to be one of those cases where if you find the right position to throw it, you get a strike every time, I'm sure. If you don't, that'll happen. I do appreciate the animations on the pins. And if you compare this to something like Meadows Bowling from, I think, the mid to late 70s, it's obviously a step up. Moving away briefly from the cassette system, Data East also did put out on non-cassette Pro Sport. Pro Sports, which is bowling, tennis and golf, is a 1983 game. Doesn't quite work properly. Basically, they took those three games and turned them into one game. You've got all three sports represented on the title screen. There are stuck sprites in the emulation of this, as you can see there. But, yeah. Apparently I selected bowling, but you see, this is the same game. apparently, yeah, you can select your game, so you can have tennis. That's your tennis game. So, you know, even beyond the life of the cassette system, these games were reissued, and this was in '83. I don't know. I mean, they're not better versions of the games. They're just the games on a ROM-based platform, and a 3-in-1. Boldness. That is a. They could have called it boldness rather than pro sports, but kind of reminds me of Codemaster's professional whatever simulator. But yeah, those weren't very professional sports games, were they? Night Star. Now I could extend this stream by reading out the numbers: 116, 115, 114, 113. But I'm not going to do that. Yeah, the cassettes are fragile and rare, unfortunately. So Night Star. Now, we are still in '83 territory, as expressed in Roman numeral form on the title screen. But yeah, lots of high score names, 20 of them. So, what do we do in this one? Well, your mission is carrying 3 containers and making the space station. So we're launching from presumably a friendly planet to make a space... Oh, it's not so friendly, is it? I don't know why we're trying to build a space station around a planet that clearly has lots of things wanting to kill us. Have all the other satellites in orbit gone rogue? I don't know. But this does not look like somewhere I want to build a space station, to be quite honest with you. But we'll do it anyway. We'll do it anyway. We'll move up the screen. There we go. Yeah, this one is... We're back to a shooter, so this is actually a bit more enjoyable than the sports games. Now, there are 2 sets of this one. I haven't immediately observed any differences between them, so I won't be loading the second set of this one up. If you know differences between them, please do let me know in the comments or in the chat. But to me, they seem like the same game. You shoot things, and you do a spaceship. And again, we're back to kind of horrible sound, unfortunately. There's just too much going on in the sound department here. It's a bit of an overload of noise. Actually, maybe this is slightly harder than the second set. I don't know. There seem to be no enemies trying to kill me. But, there we go. I hope it's an armed space station, because there's enough that doesn't want it to be built, clearly. It's AY sound. Bailey. Or Bailey. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but yeah. AUI sound, I think Time Flight's also AUI sounds. I mean, a lot of early things were. The Spectrum was, the CPC was, the Spectrum was great. It's a classic sound system, really. Got some bigger, say, this is what I mean, we've got X-Wing type ships now. Again, more Star Wars influences in there. Big X ships. Ooh. Maybe they're just butterflies, maybe I'm accusing them of copying from Star Wars for no reason. So, are these space cars from Bump and Jump? I'm not sure. Also, why is the space station clearly further away on this round? Bailey. Okay, thank you. I am not always sure of the best way to pronounce names, but and thank you for joining the stream and making some comments. I hope you're doing well. Always good to see people who haven't maybe said anything before adding to the conversation, so thank you. Anyway, what are we doing now? Oh, well, we're crashing into rockets, clearly. Yeah, I think this is a alright shooter. Again, this is very early for a shoot 'em up. We're talking 83 here. So, you can't complain too much. Definitely got the basic elements it needs to have. You've got your up and down movement speed, you can slow down, so you can actually dodge around things or drive straight into things if you want to. It does run a lot faster when there's nothing on screen, which can be a bit off-putting. As you see at the start of each stage. Oh, that's... it was raining bullets on me there. I didn't stand much of a chance. Oh look, we're back to sort of our classic high score entry screen. With SPA, Rub and End. Why are there multiple places on there? Night Star. Right, I'm going to put the second set on actually just because I want to play another credit, and if there are differences we might see them, but I don't remember there being any differences. Here we go. So looks basically the same. And it's always possible that with these things that one of the sets is a bad dump and the other isn't. Or they could be legitimate differences. I said it's a fragile storage system. If they're bad dumps, they tend to show in the form of things crashing behind obviously wrong behaviours. I hit something. Didn't I say this set was the easiest set earlier? I think we can build a bit of our space station again. There we go. So yeah, it does seem to play, as far as I can tell, the same. Let's load it up. SpaceX 1983. So yeah, let's get this to the space station. Let's not get... Oh, no, see, these are in this version now. So it does seem to be just the same. I've not noticed any obvious differences. Yes. So we are actually running out of games now. There are maybe one or two more. But this was meant to be a shorter stream, just where I wrap things up from the previous stream, really. Thinking about it, I could have just gone on a bit longer with the previous one, but I was kind of tired at the time. So, splitting them out made sense. Deadly space screws, they'll get you. Yes, the ogre. I believe the deadly space screws have been screwed into my head. Deadly space now blip ring. I don't know. It's quite a variety of enemies, isn't it? Everything is in the mix. Oh, I think I've rebuilt this place. Yep. Congratulations. The space station is now complete, and let's make the Night Star. Oh, so yeah, this is above the space station then, I guess. I guess you're going to different heights. You're going from the space station, using it as a platform to build the Night Star, or I guess that's the theory, isn't it? Or something like that. Let's see if we can get there. Probably not, but who knows? You know, we've got lots of different attacks here too. You've got things shooting you from the side, but unfortunately the space station looks like a toilet rotated 90 degrees. Well, I guess it wouldn't want to be putting out anything straight down back to Earth, would it? So, you know, throwing the waste into orbit probably works better if it's a 90 degree rotated toilet. And end. So, in fact, we have 2 games left, and both of them are sports games. And one of them is a sport I'm not even familiar with. In fact, both of them are really. This is Scrum Try. Again, let's speed through the loading. Right, Scrum Try. It's got a kind of proper title screen. It's got a very odd animation at the bottom of the screen. But you get the idea of what it is. It's one of those things with a very oval ball, where you have to get the ball down to the other end of the pitch. So it's kind of like the football game. Let's put a coin in, let's play it. Now I will say, observe the background colour. It's a sort of browny, autumny green. You control the pink player. Let's run past everybody. Yeah, I got the ball, I got the ball, you not got the ball. I got the ball. I got the ball. You're not getting the ball. And there we go. Yeah, it's a rugby game basically. Try. I am trying. Goal kick. Yeah, it's not really. So, shall we go that way? Apparently that was the wrong thing to do. No goal. It's quite a jolly tune, isn't it? No! Dive at his feet. Throw the ball. Yes, that's better. I got the ball. No, I'm not got the ball. Somebody's got the ball. Kick the ball that way. Throw the ball that way. I got the ball now. Now, I'm probably not going to be very good at this. Sensible world of rugby, this is not. Though sensible world of rugby does not exist. Oh dear. If I hammer the ball, do I get that quick? Oh, I got it back off him. Apparently hammering the ball is good. Hammering the button is good. I think I've got the ball. Yes, I have the ball. I don't have the ball. I might have the ball. The ball is somewhere. You get the idea. Fortunately, you are only the pink player. It's like a one-man team, even though the others are here. You don't seem to be especially useful. I don't think you can change them. I mean, there were rugby games on the 8-bit home computers. Oh, I thought I had that ball. Though I never really understood how to play them. The rugby games on the PlayStation 3, I've got a few over there, and they're terrible, unfortunately. That was a goal, apparently. That probably means I'm now losing. Yes, I'm now losing. Okay. It's quite strange to see a rugby game on the Data East Cassette system, though, for the US market. I guess it was considered close enough to just be, you know, American football. I think it's meant to be based more on rugby than American football. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. They're very similar sports to me, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. Don't be a loser. That is what the game at the start said. Well, I keep trying. So I just go straight then. Does this go in? No. I don't think he's very good at this. It definitely feels more like a rugby than American football, but they're very similar. I don't know much about either. Get the ball and do something with it, other players. The other players are useless. They don't do anything. Ever. No, yeah, I have to hammer the buttons. Yeah, if I hammer the buttons, I can catch up. But not enough. Not enough at all. Rival now has 10. I've never actually spent any time playing this before. I think that didn't go in. But that's... Oh, game over. Okay. I mean, the time didn't run out, but it's still game over. So it's a bit like the football game in the sense that it will just throw you off if it wants to. Apparently, when you get tackled in rugby, you also lose all your clothes according to this little animation, apart from your pants. So, Scrum Try. Now there is a second set of Scrum Try. Where the grass is green. And this is one of the things I'm saying about the Data East Cassette games. There are a lot of cases where they clearly weren't quite sure what colour they wanted the background to be. We saw it with Rootin' Tootin', La Papa. And we see it here too. As far as I know, the only difference between these two versions is they've changed the background. Pardon me, they've changed the background colour. And I don't think it's a case of the other version changes the background colour for different matches, although I've never completed the match. Oh yeah, this is a bit different too. Look, I don't really understand the controls here. You have to press where you want to shoot from, as well as doing the shot. There's still no goal. So maybe this is a newer version, but they've reworked the colours. Again, this is why I hope more of these cassette system games show up, because there are little differences between the revisions like that. The other revision did not ask me at any point to change the colours. No, to position the ball, not change the colours. Hey Gangrel, how are you doing? Thank you for joining. You are joining on the penultimate game, unless I decide to play some other random games afterwards, but always good to see you. And no goal from the computer player. So yeah, I mean... This seems to be changing. It's highlighting other players in pink too. I don't know if there's more to this that I'm not really getting. This didn't happen in the previous game. A knock on. Now we have a scrum. Oh, we actually have a scrum now. This the game is living up to its name. I didn't manage to get that to trigger in the previous version. I'm guessing it's still there. I just didn't trigger it. I don't know. He's got the ball down there. Now, hammering the button here does not seem to be getting me closer to the player, so I don't really know how you catch up with people in this version. They do seem... I said they were quite similar apart from the background colour, but actually... yeah, maybe there were more significant changes than I realised. So again, no side. What no side? Game over? Maybe nose slide. I really don't know. That was Scrum Try, the second set from '84. It is a little beyond my understanding as a game. I don't really know what the rules are, apart from score tries and then score the goals and don't get a nose side, because apparently that's game over. So, fighting ice hockey as probably the last game of this stream. So we're looking at about an hour and a half. Yeah, that's what I thought it'd be. Rubber as in rubber. A razor. We call the razors rubbers here, so it kind of makes sense here. Although we also call other things rubbers. So hence why people think it's kind of funny. But it's to rub out, to erase. you rub on the paper to get rid of the letters, and I guess that's where it comes from. The software list files are XML database files of different software for different platforms. They contain, the checksums of the files, the ROMs or the tape images, the disk images. They contain publisher information, year information, relationships between sets and things like that. And for a lot of platforms, for example, the Spectrum, I did a software list that was a bulk conversion of files I had, but there were a lot of relationships that were incorrect. For example, it would automatically generate an 8-letter set name for each game. And I was looking at Treasure Island the other day, and there were lots of games called Treasure Island, and they're all currently set to clones of each other because of the automatic generation scripts, and there's no publisher information, anything like that. So if you can set up a Git client and edit those files and correct that information, then create pull requests, that helps. For other things, there are new dumps all the time from the likes of Hidden Palace for the Mega Drive. And again, they need somebody to really actively be watching out for them, even beyond the obvious sites, and getting them added. SMS Power put out a bunch of new Master System games a couple of weeks ago. And again, somebody needs to add those. But beyond that, there are prototypes being posted all over the place. There's been ones that are outside of Hidden Palace on Twitter and the like. There was, I think, a Micro Machines 96 Mega Drive prototype that probably needs adding somewhere. And that type of thing really needs to be... you need people actively looking out for them, actively creating the pull request, add them to the software lists so that they're documented somewhere, Gangrel. Beyond that, it's not the easiest thing to explain live on stream, but if you look at the XML files in the hash folder that comes in MAME, those are our software lists, and they are just our lists of mainly removable media console titles and things like that, mostly for the consoles that work in MAME. I mean, we don't have huge lists for non-working CD-based systems because that would be terabytes of data that's untested, and there are better ways to handle that. But for systems that work reasonably well, or where they're useful test cases, it's always good to have a software list with identifiable set names, as much for anything else as bug tracking. And if you're talking to somebody about games you've tested, you've got a reference set name. Anyway, that aside, this is the final game of the stream, which is fighting ice hockey. And the immediate thing you notice is the background is a dark blue with the lines in a lighter blue. And people have said that is wrong because there are screenshots of this game with a light blue background. And light blue would make more sense if you played the NHL games on Mega Drive or something like that. The earlier MAME versions did render this in light blue. However, this specific set that is dumped definitely renders on hardware with the dark blue. And one of the reasons the colours were wrong in other DECO Cassette games before this is because they were tuned to getting this game to look correct, or what people thought was correct. Now, much like Scrum that we just looked at, I'm 99% sure there must be another cassette out there somewhere where the colours on this are inverted. But this set, the one that's dumped, has these colours, and that is how it's meant to be. I don't know if the other set will show up at any point, but yeah, this isn't incorrect with these colours. This is how people have said it looks if they've tested the dump we have from MAME on hardware. So what do I do? I've got one fire button, I think. Yeah, okay. So it seems like a fairly simplified ice hockey game. I've got a tackle button there. I seem to have a fire button and tackle button. There's not much momentum on the puck there. And it wants me to do some icing because it's a cooking simulator, maybe, possibly. I really don't know. Baking simulator. I don't know the rules of ice hockey, unfortunately. Apparently I've passed it straight to the opposition. So I think I might have let in a goal, so it's a get. Yeah, it's just another sports game, isn't it? And unfortunately, one that, again, sports games tend to age badly, more so than any other genre, I'd say. You obviously have your all-time classics like Sensible Soccer, Sensible Order Soccer, the NHL games on the Mega Drive, but especially early sports games, they always seem very rough. And I think I just let another goal. Yeah, it's an abbreviation of about Santori. Now this music again seems a bit too jolly for an ice hockey game. Yeah, I'm not very good at this. I appear to just be dancing on ice rather than playing ice hockey. Also, I have no strategy for scoring. And it is game over. So, night game. For a fighting ice hockey game, there did not appear to be much fighting. Maybe that's because I didn't trigger any fighting, but I just sort of feebly lost to the first opposition while sliding around on my bum. But that is about all I can do with this ice hockey game. Right. So yeah, I think that's it. Because if I look down the list, there's nothing else dumped, and we get to Boulder Dash after the Sumo game that I started the stream with. So this was 84. The other games at 84 after this, then Boulder Dash in 85, and that was the end of the cassette system, apart from maybe some Mahjong games with their own numbering schemes. But that was probably reuse of the hardware after it had sort of been considered end of life. Which happened. I mean, we've seen that with plenty of other platforms. If you look at, say, Sega's STV, the Saturn-based one, after it had most of its mainstream games, it kind of got reused for cheaper titles, redemption games and the like. I think that probably the same happened with the cassette system. We'll see if any of those ever turn up, I guess. But yeah, that's it. So, I'll close this and just say thank you to everybody who has joined and participated in the chat. It's only been a short stream, but I did cover the majority of these in the first part of this Data East special. I'm currently, looking at ideas for the next special. I was thinking water, snow, ice based, or I was thinking maybe doing some isometric games, although that's going to be mostly computer based, or maybe console based rather than arcades. And I'm sort of not sure what counts and what doesn't. Does something like Great 1,000 Miles Rally count? It's kind of got that perspective, but then it's also got regular looking parts. Or just racing games. There's plenty of racing games or sports games. There's loads of possibilities. And also I still want to maybe look at the whole April all killer no filler type alternatives. So yeah, thank you Thomas, thank you Lee, thank you Mr. Drome and Santari, the Ogre, Gangrel. I know you were only here briefly. Wolfraz, Bailey, and Raphael, who was commented earlier, Mr. Drome, Ray, Foxhack, who I missed, who said go fish, but thank you for joining. Sorry for not reading out your comment. I scrolled past it earlier, unfortunately. Casper was here earlier, maybe still is. Delta Ray Studios, Mass Ninja, Mitchell, if you're still watching. So yeah, thank you to everybody who's been here. And I hope you've enjoyed this part of the Data East games, even though, they weren't the best games, because I did focus on the ones I enjoy more and had something more to say about in the first part, especially like Grapple Up and Skater and Zero Eyes. Good to know, Ray. What did you do in the end? Was it just a case of fresh folder or something else? But anyway, if you don't have time to respond, that's fine. But I think I'll be closing the stream now anyway. But yeah, that's it. I'm probably going to look at some more Data East games in the future too, because like I said, they are one of my favourites. Actually, I didn't cover, and I looked at the Data East multi thing in another stream, but there is a non-cassette based thing that runs on it where you just get a menu from David Widow, but this was done before a lot of the games were dumped, so not everything is on there, and you only get one version of each game. So it's something people use on real hardware, but I'd recommend using the proper sets and studying the alternative versions. Yeah, I guess there was something in the INI file or something, putting invalid slot options there or something. Sometimes it happens. Glad you got it sorted anyway. But yeah, the multi-slot does work and it's quite enjoyable to use, really. So I'm glad you got it sorted anyway. So bye-bye, everybody. Take care, and I will see you on the next one.